All right, time to start Jeremiah. This will be part one. And I guess open up the text, put my ugly mug up there, and go from here. Um, as I'm looking for the format, connecting two words together, and this ended up being a three-verse format. Um, and I'm looking for two verse and four verse. And I've explained Ezra has more than just two words like that. But Um, so a lot of these words I don't need, and they really don't seem to be that great of importance. Now this is a king's name, Josiah, and this was his father, king for Judah. Um, well, this used to be the word the, so, and so it better be like that. Okay. Third year of his reign for his son. And then I didn't want to short his name down. I'm shorting a lot of the names down just for the simple fact, just like this here, his father's name, which better be a capital H when I get done. Um, it just helps us today. These aren't as important as they were back then. Um, as you can see, I replaced or took this off of this king's name here. This is to the end of the 10 and 11 years of his reign. Now, I have to state here a second, just a second, um, that I'm going to use the numbers like this written out the way they'd write it. So it's 10 and 1 years, meaning 11 years, okay? So if it was, say, 20 years, it would be two tens and then whatever number. Okay, and I just want to make sure that's understood right up front here. It wasn't until it was after our exile, and I putting it in first person as if I was the writer at that time. In the 5th month, word came to me saying, "You are my prophet to the tribes, not nations, tribes." This is just not really needed. And it's not that he didn't appoint. You are. When the creator starts talking to you and says you're a prophet, it doesn't need to be appointed. Um, when I've gone through the text, I like to point out that the words that they have, like as referenced before the titles for our creator, they started with the word Lord. When I looked it up, it's Adonai. I guess I should get this one going as well. And then I needed it to be Lord. And when I didn't need the word, I'm not going to look it up. And I'm just, um, you can look it up when you get time. Just a second, I'm trying to open up because I was just getting done with Nehemiah. So, here, okay. Um, Now that I've got that set up. Um, how to speak. I'm just creating the words to make sure it flows correctly when I'm adding words like this. It's not behold, I don't know. It's I do not know how to. Maybe that's the way they were saying it then. I pretty much trying to put it into way it's easier for us to understand it today. Because I am a young. The wife said to me, "Do not say I am young. Um, for everywhere I send you, what I say you will declare to his people." Now, you notice I'm adding this word. Um, because when you're looking at trying to create the format, a lot of this text um, that I'm getting rid of doesn't really add to the story. But these are important that I'm adding something like this because he's told to go to the people. You got to understand what's going on at this time. Okay. Let me pull up the Kings over here and see. Oops, didn't make it over all the way. All right. You have to understand what's going on at Isaiah's time. He starts with this king. He's in there, I don't know how many years. I think the text will reveal that he was young. I think he started maybe at the 17th year of Josiah here. And then he was the prophet at this time and at this time. So it depends on where we're talking about the text and how corrupt they are. This king here started the corruption by having that meditation sex practice with the female goddess. And he starts to allow their type of priest, they put their own name onto it. I like the word diviner better, but they started rewriting the text, and you're going to see some of that being mentioned by our creator, that the text is corrupt, and they're telling you the text is corrupt. Jesus up above here is telling you that the text is corrupt. But he started putting all kinds of things into our creator's house. Well, it takes him, 50 years later before he's actually going to get rid of them. So, or send them out. So these guys are really corrupt and really doing things that they shouldn't be doing. And so you got to understand he's going to his people, and he's also going to those at the same time. So don't think Josiah replaced all the priests that were bad when he was in. He pretty much let them do what they were doing. It was all of a sudden losing control of the kingdom here. Not the kingdom, the nation of Judah. Do not be afraid of them. He's talking to Jeremiah here. I will save you from them. And he reached out his hand, he touched his mouth, and then he said, I have appointed you today over the tribes. Now, I don't know where the next verse is coming from. Okay, it's 4 verse. So there's going to have to be 2 verses down here. Maybe not. It depends. I'm cleaning up the text. I guess I didn't do that to this one and go back and regroup them. I'm just looking for what seems to be the most truthful. Now this isn't actually what happens. Our creator doesn't speak through him when he's taught. He is actually supposed to listen to our creator and then repeat the best he can of what our creator is saying. And that's why you'll see some of this text will have words here that and then our creator said, oh yes, he also said this. So I try to break it down to where the words are what's important by our creator in all capital letters, and then trying to use these small words in black lettering sometimes are needed in between these words to show it's breaking up or just the way it ended up coming out. This is not needed because when you go through and looking for the story, this is not the end of this, okay? Because I've edited so much, I could have made some of this into a format, This didn't make it, okay? Um, and just like this, like every time you're going to see the words from YV, that's going to be, see, and then it says like here, it's almost like the person who was editing this did not care that there needs to be the story. This is supposed to be told to the people. So, or to whoever he is being told to go to. So you can't just stop and say, this is the end of this one. Then he said this, then he said this, then he said this, then he said this. And it makes no sense. What you're going to see is a real good story here when it comes out because it's his first time. So it's going to be like, what do you see, Jeremiah? I said, I see a rod from a tree. And then YV says, you see rightly, not well, but rightly. For I'm watching over my word to perform it. Now this here goes to his part of his everlasting promises when he started talking to Moses. That if they do as I say, I will not kick them off the land. So he's watching for this word to perform it. And if they don't, he's kicking them out. Okay. And then it says, now what do you see? Now, I didn't need the word came a second time. I guess I could have broke it down a little bit more, but I didn't, because the text here that I'm getting rid of here is here. Our Creator's telling us. I've stood kind of, if that's what you can say. I was before our Creator, and you can't say that you're standing on ground because there's nothing, there's just emptiness. You're just floating there. And so you don't have this understanding of direction. So I wanted to make sure that this was not in the text. Now, our Creator's telling them out of the north, evilness will come. Instead of using two words, break forth, I used the word come. And all the inhabitants of the land. Now, the problem here, this is going to be mentioned later, so it doesn't need to be in the text right now. And the words inhabitants at this time, now that there's foreigners in there and the foreigners are overtaking, the King Manasseh invited them in. Yes, he actually had the meditation practice. That's why he installed new priests. But the object is these inhabitants are going to be almost like the word different races. Okay, these races that had this practice were allowed to come in. So just thought I'd let you know about the word inhabitants, what it means there. Probably repeat that. Now, a lot of times I'm making it as if it was, he's not calling, he's prophesizing. The words come out that he's prophesizing. So you're going to see me having to add the word prophesizing quite a bit here to all the tribes, not just families. We're talking about tribes. From the north, they will come. Okay. See, because when our Creator's talking, he doesn't need to restate who he is to declare what's going to come. But here, that's why I'm getting rid of this type of text from the text. Now this here doesn't make any sense. So the object is, if you can skip that and go to the gates for Jerusalem to be against everyone within its walls. Now, this is talking about who's coming from the north. Now, being this is early on, you cannot have the name Nebuchadnezzar in the text. Nebuchadnezzar doesn't really become a king until he's like 12 years old. So you can't have him 195 years old when you try to do the search from like the Bible text of what Nebuchadnezzar's age is. I think I had him well over 120, maybe even up to 140 years old. But the object is that isn't true. So here, the text, you have to understand when you're putting the text in order, it has to be watched what is being said and at what time. Now, Nebuchadnezzar is king at the time of, was it Ezek here? Yeah. Yeah, Zedek. So let me get rid of that and put that over here where I can see that. And my cheat sheet notes, so I sound like I know their names all the time. So, and it's going to be not roundabout, but all around. Okay. I'm trying to show you what words, and I say this in every beginning, um, that some of the words are so similar to each other. I don't think you really have an argument about them, me changing those, because what you should understand by now is that needs to be changed. They went and absolutely ripped it apart and changed it to whatever they wanted to. They did not expect what is known as the computer, and someone like me who will be able to uh, be given all this knowledge by our Creator to literally um, dig these out for you. And that's what these are, is a historical archive. Man. And I am prophesying, not pronounced, but prophesying my judgments on them for all their evilness. This isn't wickedness is different than evilness. By offering sacrifices to other, and I ended up with the word gods. It's gods, but the word in Hebrew is Elohim. I usually use it as the word creator. Here I have to use it as the word gods, because that's what we're talking about. I left the word creator there. It doesn't read exactly as them being well aware, the ones who are being sent, the prophets are sent. We know their practice, so we don't write it as trying to say, well, they called them creators at that time. At that time, they were called gods. So I'll get onto it here. By their own hands. This doesn't need to be said. You are to declare, not speak, but to declare to everyone. I use change the word from all to everyone. That what I prophesied, not commanded you, but prophesied to you. Do not be dismayed. I put intimidated here. Now, this might be a word that 12th graders or 12-year-olds aren't going to be able to read, but once they understand what the word means, this is him being young, going in front of people that are a lot older than him. So it would be they would be intimidated, or that's what they would do. So do not be intimidated before them. Then he's sending them out, and this here. He doesn't make them as a fortified city. This is just garbage stuck in there. And the kings for Judah, to the kings of Judah, or the king of Judah at this time. So it's one king, can't be more than one when you're writing at that time. And they didn't have princes and to the priests, but to the people in the land. Okay, this is going to be to all the people. So what he went to do is to tell them, hey, from the north, they're going to come, and you better be aware. Now here comes the second time our Creator's prophesying to them, or in the text in this order. So go and prophesy, not proclaim, but prophesy. And in the ears of Jerusalem, the city can't listen. It's not, I know people try to make up things for what the text says, but I'm able to say that doesn't matter. Needs to get on with what's important here. Their devotion, and they're following my commands. He's telling them about when they first were in the desert and then to the wilderness. And that would be The desert was in the Sinai, and the wilderness actually is greenness, with trees and stuff like this, through lands not sown. So it was a wilderness. Um, when you see where people are living, the land beside it was rural. In fact, today, there's very few parts of any land that man has not walked on. But when you do walk on land that's wild like this, it is a wilderness. It can be very large animals roaming around. Israelis not was holy to me, but they were holy, and I have to put it in the context that our Creator is speaking. And this becomes hard sometimes using the word me or my at this time. Um, Now they are guilty, for their evilness comes from them, because now this evilness is coming from those that are really in power of all the things now, that such as would be judging the people. Uh, they're changing his um, commandments, his laws, whatever our Creator was commanding. They are in there overwriting it for their God. Um, Hear the word. It doesn't need to be house of Jacob, because that really house should be descendants of Israel. When our Creator renamed him, he didn't go back and start calling him Jacob, but uh, families turn to tribes. You are a household from Israel, and this is the man Israel now. So it's descendants, descendants. Um, Ivy says, what justice was done by your forefathers, and what they went far away from me to walk after your goddess's emptiness. Now, this is, see, they got the word empty here, so I'm kind of relating it to what they would have, it needs to be, well, let's just go like this. And so it's this whole word, this whole verse is not what's coming from me. They walked after and become empty. There are certain days of the month, one day of the month, I guess, that after seeing the goddess, that there is a bubble that comes up the spine, goes to the top of the head, down the throat, and into the uh, lower region here, and then can keep coming back and forth, going around. And this is what when I try to explain in the 1611 preface, when they put down the Holy Spirit that they put in was done by the inditter. The inditter was you are the one that did this, and you can get this emptiness, which is a Holy Spirit. Um, to feel this energy, if you just think from your head down to your arm and then to your fingertips and back and forth, you do this 3 or 4 times, you'll feel this all of a sudden, like this energy field moving back and forth. Well, this field actually turns into like a ball. When it slides down the tongue, it has this form of a ball that's empty on the inside. So this is the emptiness that I'm talking, caused by her goddess's emptiness. Now, actually, our Creator tells us, and it comes up in the text that he revealed by his hidden formats, that this is the energy that makes us who we are when the soul enters into conception, how we're formed, that this energy forms us, makes us, gives all the instructions and everything, how to change from 2 seeds to where you are now today. What they've done is they've found this energy that can be recaused by this, but only Satan is playing the female goddess in their practice. This has been proven now, so or I pretty much stated that as fact, and other people are finding out that that's believable. And because this practice of this emptiness is what makes them call themselves gods, okay? That you have to have this practice to become a god. But when you can find out that you can visit the abyss, and that's in the description, afterlife, you watch that. Once you can understand you already have a soul and you don't need this practice, then this is the deception of the world, what's going on with Satan right now. It's changing the last since 1995. They did say, brought us out of Egypt and led us through the deserts and wilderness. I'm moving the word wilderness is over here instead of here because they started in Egypt, which is pretty dry. They went through the Red Sea, then they were back in the desert, and then they went up to the hill country and then around um, up to the what we know as Jordan and the mounts in Jordan there by the Jordan River. This doesn't need to be said. Into the pits through the land of the promised. He promised. Had to add the word promise, not of drought. Um, a fruitful land and eat its fruit and its good foods, not things, but foods. See, they call that bubble a thing that they eat. So, with your God's images, you have defiled the land. Because I needed a format here, I need to add that text there that he's talking. He's supposed to be out there telling people this is prophecy. So he's out there telling them that this is the problem. You've defiled the land and made it unclean. Now, and for those, here we have our Creator telling us here, for those handle the laws, they do not know me. So that's what I'm saying. They would change the laws by not knowing him and just saying, well, this needs to be changed the way we want it. Kind of like the politicians. They can't keep their hands off of good laws. And they just seem to think that that's the purpose of theirs, to be changing laws. And once something's done, it shouldn't really need to be changed except for a great matter being brought up that causes this change to happen. They're not rulers, they're your leaders, meaning all of them, the judges, the priests, the scribes, the elders are all sinners now because they didn't transgress. They went on to the female goddess, and this is finding another god that's against the commandments. The commandments are what is known as sin because our Creator defined it. If you go against any of the commandments, that is a sin. There's 12 commandments. So there you now know what a sin really is. And in there it says if you go on to other gods, you haven't followed these commandments, that makes you what a true sinner is. You're also an evil sinner, by the way. And those guys aren't prophets, they're diviners, because a prophet I'm using as a word tied to our Creator. Diviners, they're sitting there trying to do their little thing, but they prophesied for Ra, not Bala, but Ra, for you to follow their gods. Now, there's a lot to be said about Ra, but anyways, there's a lot of symbols in Egypt. Say of a man with the head of an animal. Well, that's what happens. A male's maleness retracts inside his body once a year, so he's like an animal, half beast, half man, kind of like a sphinx, although I don't think they did that to the sphinx until way after the flood. Do not profit from, therefore I will rebuke them. Not contend with them, he's going to get rid of them. You got to understand, our Creator's telling him that the promise that he made is to send them away, so he's going to rebuke with them, not contend with them. And all this here, you can see, go to all these places. Well, they were the pagan places, so why go to them? Why did they change gods, not gods? This is just not needed. And if you notice the story, you can't really find anything here. Now, if you take the blue text that I'm throwing away and you do a study, you're going to find, yes, you can change it into a format, but it's just not needed. The text is nothing but coded for them. So whatever you come up with is still going to end up written by them. And these are what I'm trying to tell you is the hidden formats that are hidden within the text. And if you followed me, you can see that the stories become really, really vivid and true. It doesn't have a lot of crap in them. This doesn't need to be there, or this is not needed. Memphis was known as that time as Cairo. I've changed everything to Cairo, so that's still got a little bit of my editing there when I was looking at the text. Because I did at one time, or when I went through here, I did look to see if I could find a format, and then the story starts jumping around and doesn't have what our Creator is saying about getting rid of them. So, the dread of me is not in you. The fear, that would be changed to be fear. But a lot of this text is going to be brought up later. So they're reusing words. They're scrambling what was written all over the place, putting it in different order and writing it for their God. So I planted you as a choice vine. Not really. They're a nation to be his people. So it's not like they completely faithful seed. And turn yourself before of a foreign vine. No. Yeah, that didn't make it. How can you say I'm not defiled? Have you not gone after the balls? Okay, so you can see I found one verse out of here that I thought that, one paragraph that I thought would work. Because actually it goes way up here with this text here when he rebuked them. And then why he declares, and this is where our Creator's speaking, that he's declaring, this is like I said, I don't know if I should be changing I declare or into that instead of using our Creator speaking in his first person about himself. How can you say I'm not defiled? Have you not gone after Raz? So you can find that, and then it continues. And as a thief is shamed. Okay, let me see here. This is junk. This is not needed either. As a thief is ashamed when discovered, so are the descendants from Israel ashamed of their kings. Because those that are still there are, I call them Israelis, those still the obedient people. The dependent or descendants from, I don't know why when I say it, it sounds like I'm putting a C in there or an S after the N. Anyways, they're ashamed of their kings. And then here, and their priests and diviners. I want to use diviners because all of a sudden there's multitude of these diviners out there, and they're all doing their astrology thing, reading palms, telling you about the stars in heaven and reading. And you got to understand, they didn't have much television back then or radio. So these would have been people speaking on the corner and getting people's interest. And they were doing this with trickery to get them into their belief. You don't know what's going on at this time, and you still wouldn't believe it. When I tell people what's going on and actually showed them the changing of what was going on, I had grown men turning sheets of pale on me because they knew what I was saying. They could look at it and they were thinking like, that means there's millions of these people around. Well, yeah, they were. um, and they're in all facets of life. They're all tucked in their little corner, all working for the female goddess, or actually Ra, the sun god. And then they ended up just believing in the female goddess as not a male mater. Okay, yes. 36 minutes, not bad. I almost forgot to, that's the first time I looked at the clock. Here again, changing it to going to use the word gods you made for yourself. And then here I needed to use the word idols instead of gods. So that's a really far change, but your idols in Judah, not your gods in Judah. Even though that would have meant those that had the practice, no, they set up these idols of their gods. I'm going to make it that I know that what was going on. So idols is the correct word here. And transgressed, they sinned. You got to understand what sin. Okay, now against me, and it's pretty much, I've changed the word why to what. These were yellows are for me to show you the text and the changing. Like, can I change these words? When I first did this, I did all of the text. Then I went through this already. Then I went and put them into like formats, compiled them in order, and then I took them and I assembled them in another order, breaking it all up. So a lot of these words I've got here, I'm not going to be showing you them as much. I think you're able to trust me on a lot of these because I've shown so many of them over the other videos. I'm trying to speed these videos up because I've still got probably 600 more to make easily just to get through this book. To get this compiled together. My chastening, I think I might change that word yet. Swords have not devoured, but killed. Your diviners are destroying you. Yeah, this is not needed. It just didn't connect with anything. Why would words of why would already be saying that to themselves to be said? Why do his people say we are free and will come to me no more? This is what's happened. It's starting to be so corrupt from Manasseh's time that whatever they're doing in the house, the good people, were still willing to show up, but it's now distorted so bad that they aren't even showing up because it's gone out of control. So, but he's talking, can a virgin forget her bridal attire, and then the people have forgotten me. Yeah, I'm going to stop right here and go with the next video. So let me put an end piece in here.